Hello, YouTube. It's your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And the title of this video is called Highest Bidder Passport Bros Will Take Your Girl When She Enters the State says male maggle slash hater. And the way this video came about was I was watching a video done by Donovan Sharp, and the title of the video was called Are American Women Worth Dating Anymore? And of course, on that stream, he had a few dating coaches. He had Minister Jap, and it was like a few other people as well. And so anyway, I kind of want to discuss what they kind of. So anyway, one of the main things that came up was when they asked one of the dating coaches. I'm not going to mention names, but his thing was that the women there, of course, they only want you for your money, and he's pretty much saying as a result of that, when she gets here to the States, the highest bidder is going to wind up taking her off your hands. And of course, in his mind, the dating coaches, they're going to just game the woman out of being with you, and you're going to lose the woman as soon as she comes here. That kind of narrative. What was interesting was actually Donovan Sharp kind of he kind of agreed with us a lot on some of the points. Like he was just saying that here and there you may be able to find a decent woman in the States, like more so like some of the flyover towns, that kind of thing. Like, the cities that are not as huge. Here and there, you might find like a girl that's decent, but he was saying overall, if you're looking like for values and that kind of thing, the foreign women kind of have it, which I was actually surprised. Him, doing a lot of like videos on dating and that kind of thing. But I kind of wanted to address the comment about this thing about the woman, she only wants you for the money. When she gets to the stage, she's going to leave you for some other guy who has more money or some guy who has more game. This same old dusty narrative. And I just want to kind of just, debunk that. First off, as I stated in my previous videos, the marriage rate between American male and American female is 52% in the States. The rate between a American male and a foreign woman is the success rate is 80%. So 80% of the men who bring their women to the States, they have a 80% success rate. So that's one thing. Keep in mind that these passport bros who do this, they live in various states, including some big cities as well, and they don't have any issues when their woman comes back to the States. And there's a variety of different reasons for this. As I say before, one of the videos, BGS did a video about a guy who lived in Guatemala, and he basically lived like in a basement. He's pretty much one of the guys that's like a small vendor selling fruit, that kind of thing. And he has, he has a pretty wife, some kids, and his wife is happy with him. She cooks for him every day, and he's not really making that much money. And the thing is, these women grow up generations upon generations of women who love to cook for their family. They love to be, they're pretty much raised to be wives, and they love to cook for their man. And as I said before, some of the reason for this is because, as I said before, in the States, our one thing I would say, even though I'm not really a fan of the police, in comparison to these other countries, our police are pretty efficient. Them solving a murder case or solving cases in general or coming to help is pretty high as far as like efficiency. Versus some of these other countries, you better hope that the police actually solve the case. On top of that, a lot of the police, they take bribes. Sometimes they pat down the people that, they pat down the civilians for money. If I've heard plenty of stories about American men going to Mexico and the police trying to get money out of them and that kind of thing. So in those cases, a lot of times the locals don't really mess with the police. So if you're not really messing with the police, who's going to be your protection? The men of your community. That's another reason why men have high value there, because the actual local men have to actually protect the community from other men. Also, like the gangs there, because you can't really work with police that much, and a lot of times the police just come afterwards after the situation has happened. So that's number one. So keep in mind, when passport bros go to these countries, um a lot of times, the women feel very protected with us. Of course, if they come back to the States with us, they feel like they're going to be in a protected environment. And of course, not just that, even when we're there, because we have funds, we're able to afford some of the safest spots in those countries. For example, in Bogota, there's a section called Yusakin. That's pretty much like one of the richest. Well, I won't necessarily say the richest, but it's well developed part of Bogota, and it's very expensive for a lot of the locals there. So, and the thing about it is very, very safe. Um, of course, anywhere overseas, I wouldn't say just walk around late at night, but that city in particular, that section of the city in particular, is very, very safe, and it costs a lot to be there. So what I'm saying is, when you come to these cities, a lot of times, passport bros, we're not really staying in areas that where there's like gunshots and it's dangerous. We're in areas that are pretty nice and well off, and the apartments are really nice. So of course, the women know when they're going to be hanging out with you, dating you, they're going to be in some of the most safest, luxurious parts of the city. So that's another attraction with you being with you as well. Um, that being said, when she comes back to the States with you, I don't care if you make like $30,000 a year. That neighborhood you live in, even some of the guys who live in the borderline like hood areas, although your area might seem dangerous, but there's some parts of Colombia and Brazil that are on a whole nother level. And some of these women come out of those areas. So that being said, when they come to your area, although it is bad, it's not as bad as it is in those countries. So what I'm saying is, you have that extra level of benefit when actually when she, she's been in, put it this way, some of the women have been in rougher environments. That's one thing I want to say. So you have that going for you. You also have the fact that, as we keep saying, the travel, especially travel frequently, it costs money. So a lot of times, in most cases, the passport bros, these are men who are either well off or they at least have their finances in order. So these guys are not, we're not dusty Poogies and Ray Rays for the most part. That's what I'm pretty much saying. So they're acting as if we're just losers going over there, pick up these women, they come back, women gonna say, "Oh, I don't want to be with this loser," and that kind of thing. On top of that, I didn't even bring in the fact that when they did a study, immigrant families tend to be more stable than American families. And think about that. The immigrant families that come from Mexico, they come over the border, and you're talking about coming from environments where people make $2 a day and that kind of thing. Maybe not $2 a day. Let's just say like $8 a day, that kind of thing. They coming from those kind of environments, and then when they come over here, you don't see a mass exodus of wives just leaving their husbands. They don't do that. That's not their culture. And other cultures, because they don't have money, they tend to invest in people. They invest in people. They tend to be more community oriented. It's only in the United States where we have this every man out for himself mentality. So they don't come into our countries with that mentality. You also take into account when they come into our country, they don't tend a lot of times to you know associate a lot of times with some of the Americans. They tend to be in their own little enclaves. You have things like little Italy, you have things like little Haiti, little Cuba. They tend to stick amongst their own. They have their own little culture there. They try to preserve it. You might even hear sometimes foreigners saying that they don't want their children hanging out with Americans because they don't want them to become Americanized. So a lot of these guys, they're thinking when the women come here, they just necessarily want to fall in love with them and they want to become Americanized. That's just not true. As we keep saying before, some of the women don't even want to completely stay here. They're only here to get their business. When I was working in Florida, I worked with many immigrant women who had visas. A lot of times they had their husbands back home. Now think about that. They have their husbands back home who are not making that much. She's probably only making $10 a day. She's in America working at like a McDonald's, probably making if she worked 8 hour shifts, about 8 times what he's making per day. She's not just fleeing and leaving him. She's actually working there, sending money back home for him and their children. So they don't get over here and just start getting hot in the pants and just looking for random guys to start sleeping around with and that kind of stuff. Not to say that there aren't loose women. There's loose women in every country, but not to the degree that these guys are trying to paint this narrative about foreign women. It doesn't work like that. You'll actually find out that like I said, I've even dated some foreign women in states. It's not, they actually, even the ones that become Americanized, they're not as extreme as some of the American women. I can tell you that. They still, to some degree, preserve their culture. So you have that going for you. Um, the other thing is he's just assuming that the women just want us for our money. So because she just wants us for our money, I heard one channel say, and this was really well, anyway, this was the talking point. They try to say, if that woman is willing to leave her country to come to your country, what makes you think that she's not going to be willing to leave you? And first off, that's under the assumption that, first off, that she doesn't care about her country. She wants to permanently leave her country. And also on the assumption that she only left for a passport. That's the assumption. That's just completely not true. And I've already debunked that previously in this video. Just by saying that the woman I told you before that worked at McDonald's, she had a husband back home. She plans to make money and then go back home. And then on top of that, there's a lot of passport bros that meet these women. They stay in their countries. They don't even come back. So that I say that to say that all the women there are not necessarily looking to just leave. Also keep in mind that a lot of times that some of the guys there in their countries, um, they kind of have this thing where like if they don't get the type of woman they want, they just don't get married. So a lot of times there's a lot of services there, like the women in the night services. Those women kind of cater to the men there, and they just kind of mess with those women, and they just kind of do their own bachelor for life type of thing. Uh, so you have that going on. Also keep in mind that sometimes some of the women that are there that the passport bros, including myself, date, some of the men there don't want those women. For example, there was a Filipina that had a video about the reason why she dated a foreign man is because a lot of the Filipino men there didn't like the fact that she had curly hair, or they don't like some of the women because they have slight tans. They like the more porcelain colored, Filipinas. So for that reason, she had a hard time finding a man. But me myself, I don't. I love curly hair. I love curves. I love, especially some of the Thai women and some of the Filipinas with some of the like brown skin. I like all the varieties, not just one particular case. But in my opinion, I'm more than happily take those women off those men's hands. That doesn't bother me. Same thing in South America. You have a lot of men there that might like more the women who are more either porcelain skin, or in some cases they like more of the model type shape women. They don't like the women being like thick thighs, you know, curves, that kind of thing. Me being a black man, I really like that. So I'm more than happy to take those women off those men's hands. So that's why a lot of times with Presso Bros, when we go in there, we're meeting these type of women, they're kind of, what's the word? They're blushing. They're kind of taken back by the fact that we're really, really can appreciate curves and curly hair and that kind of thing, and even tans and that kind of stuff. So that's why a lot of times, a lot of guys, when they go to Brazil, they go to Bahia, Brazil, which you have a lot of, Afro Brazilian women there with the curly hair, natural hair, tans, that kind of thing. And the men do really well there. And a lot of times people are like, why would women be so attractive? It's because a lot of the men there don't necessarily appreciate that. But we as men, especially in the states that have been beaten down by the women here, told we ain't nothing, all types of negative stuff. When we go to these countries, we're more than happy to take those type of women off the hands of the men there. So you got to consider that. So a lot of times we're going there, we're meeting these women, and we're making genuine connections with these women. And these women are more than happy to spend the rest of their lives with us. So now it's a matter of where do we stay? Do we stay in the States or do we stay in their country? You got to consider that a lot of men have ties back to the United States. Some of us don't necessarily have fully remote jobs. And even in some cases, we might have family. Like I have family here that I look after. So I can't necessarily just completely vanish and go into another country and just take my, and stay there with my girl. Now I can probably break it up where I stay. Some months I stay there, some months I stay here. The whole point I'm trying to bring it up is that I'm just trying to say that the relationships that a lot of men are, because here's the thing, we're not dumb. I mean, I don't know what this is, what people thinking that passport bros are just dumb. We're dealing with the masculine, dealing with the women in America, all types of games, a la carte. One guy who blows her back out, another guy who is helping her at the gym, another guy doing her homework. We already aware of all the games. We've dealt with it with so much. I mean, we're not dumb to this when we go to these other countries. Of course, there's going to be women in every country that's going to try something. But the thing is, it's nowhere on the level as it is in America, because everything in America is kind of is catered towards the woman, and they have devalued a lot of the men's value in the country with daddy government coming in and saving the women for everything. That pretty much devalues a lot of a lot of the support that men in general can kind of give in a relationship versus the other countries. The countries are poor, their governments don't have necessarily the funds and programs available to really give the support to the people as they can. So a lot of times the people have to fend for themselves, which is why when we come to these countries and we're more than willing to help out these women and and support the people there, that's why we're received very well. And that's why it's kind of like the perfect fit. So that's the reason for that. So when these guys are talking about when we bring our girls back to the States, they're gonna go to the highest bidder. That's assuming that our relationship with them was transaction. That's just not true. A lot of us men, we know, even the guys that deal with like some of the bar girls, that kind of thing, most of us are not dumb. We know when it's just a bar girl thing, when it's just transactional, and we know when it's genuine. That's the difference. The 80% success rate of American men marrying foreign women, that proves it right there, that at least 80% of us, and even the 20% that didn't do it, again, any marriage can fail. I mean, even if it's genuine, stuff can happen. So that doesn't mean that the 20% of those men who were unsuccessful, that doesn't mean that their women were just gold diggers coming for green cards. Not to say that won't happen, but generally the way it's going to work is, when a woman comes to the States, it takes 2 years for her to even get her green card, or even to be considered like she doesn't even receive citizenship after 2 years. So that's the biggest thing that I think about. And on top of that, she doesn't know the language. In many cases, she doesn't have any family here. That's a huge risk for a woman who's just trying to get a green card. The way they're going to scam you generally is they're going to do that in their own country. They're going to try to get money out of you. They're going to try to have you sending them money, some other guys sending them money, which is why I would tell guys, if you're trying to pick up women through like the dating apps, never just send money. You want to meet these women in person. You don't want to just be sending, woman money, that kind of thing. So, but again, most of the men, we got our heads on straight. We already know the game. So that's that. So, yeah. And then the other thing about supposedly they come here, that some other guy who's either more attractive, got more game, something like that, he's gonna game the girl. It doesn't work like that. And this is something that I believe AMS had brought up. How many times have because a lot of those guys, even if you haven't had a lot of success with American women, how many times have you heard women complaining about their boyfriend? Oh, I'm so angry with him. I can't stand him. He did this, blah, blah, blah. But she's still with him, right? She didn't leave him. How many times have you heard about some guy, and I hate to say this, putting his hands on a woman, and everybody's telling her that she should leave him, but for some reason she does not leave him? And I'm not trying to make light of a situation with a guy doing like that. I'm completely against that. All the passport bros were completely against that. But what I am saying is that in general, I'm sure there's plenty of guys listening right now that have been talking to a girl. You find out she has a boyfriend. You might have tried hard to get her to leave a boyfriend. She doesn't leave him. She's still with him in spite of all the bad things she's told you about, why she has you in her friend zone complaining about him. But for some reason, she won't leave him. The thing is, as Amos said, thing about women is, in my personal opinion, is that until she is emotionally over a man, she's not going to just leave him. It doesn't work like that. Usually when she leaves, there's some guy in the background that she's been with for like a few months. They don't just do like men, where we just cut somebody off and we just move on. They're more, in my opinion, they're more emotionally based. So once they get really involved and connected and invest in a guy, the big key word is invest. Once they invest in a guy, they don't just leave him. Again, you don't see a mass exodus of Ukrainian women leaving their Ukrainian husbands that came over the border because of this war. They don't do that. That's not generally their character. Not to say that there aren't any cold women, but in general, they don't do that. So what I'm saying is, when a woman invests in you, she gets married to you, she lets you meet her family, she spend money on you, she's buying you gifts. When she gets back to the States, a guy can have more game or whatever, but she's going to be heavily invested in her. As I said before, the woman at McDonald's, her husband is back home. This woman was very attractive. I'm pretty sure there were plenty of guys throwing themselves at her. She did not leave her husband. I know this woman because I used to hang out with her sister. Like, me and her sister, were like, we used to flirt a lot and hang out, that kind of thing. And she would not leave her husband. And again, the guys here in the States make more money than them, probably got more game than that guy. A lot of them more attractive, and she's not leaving. That's not their culture. They're not like here in the States where, we take divorce like it's a light thing. We just, we look at marriage almost like, I'm not gonna say it's like it's a joke, but you got, celebrities that have been married like four or five times. They don't do that in a lot of the other countries. And in fact, the divorce rate is, I believe, was only like about 10%, I believe, in Colombia. 10%. 10%. You can't tell me over that span of that marriage that those women are not seeing more attractive men, even in their own countries, or guys who have more game. That's not their culture. There's a difference. And now I don't want to keep this video long, so I'm gonna end on that. Until next time, please subscribe to my channel, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell. Let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah, and until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.